Why sales and marketing should be separate. Combining marketing and sales under one person sounds efficient until it fails. Marketing and sales requires different skill sets. You combine both of them together under one person, and ultimately it just leads to disintegration. By the end of this video, you're going to know when and how to separate marketing and sales, and then why it matters. So I'm not a huge football player, but I did play in college. I wasn't like an obsessed football guy, and I wasn't even recruited at all. But it all worked out where I was able to play there, and so I got my brain around how football works a little bit. Even though I wasn't on offense and I wasn't on defense, I was actually a special teamer. I was a deep snapper, for those of you who know what that is, which meant I never really had a playbook or ran any plays, and I didn't realize that the position stuff was super important. But here's what I will tell you. As a deep snapper, you did not want me at linebacker, you did not want me at quarterback, and you did not want me, frankly, anywhere else on the field. A lot of times when you're dealing with your marketing and your sales people, your operations people, your administration people, they're slotted in those roles for a reason. And marketing and sales really do have different skill sets. Although there are some crossover in a lot of areas, they at least have different disciplines and what's required of them. So what I want you to think is just kind of divide in two columns. You've got marketing over here and you've got sales over here. And so when we talk about marketing, here are some of the key aspects when you're building a job role around marketing that you can use to leverage and build out a proper marketing job role. We look at marketing and we realize that marketing requires a lot of ideation. It requires a lot of research, because a lot of your messaging around marketing really needs to come from the pain that the customer is feeling. In the marketing world, you need to think of yourself as ibuprofen to another person's headache. And they've got a pain, they've got chaos, they've got this headache that they feel. What is the ibuprofen that we offer to help cure that headache? Well, a lot of that comes by listening and active listening, doing a lot of research, a lot of demographics out into the world, not necessarily looking to see what type of person, but what is the pain that that person is feeling that your business can likely solve for that person, and also who are the people that you're not equipped to solve their pain. And you usually need to stay away from those people because you're not going to be able to adequately pull through the promise that you're making in the promises of marketing. And marketing with that requires a lot of in and out, touch and move on, touch and move on. But let's go to the flip side of the chart and we look at sales. What does sales require in contrast to marketing? Well, sales is focused on messaging for sure, but there is a consistency and a repetitiveness to sales that you may not find in the ideation of marketing. Sales, honestly, does not require a lot of ideation, not a lot of new ideas. What sales requires is following a script. It's influencing and persuading a person to move from point A to point B. It's persuading a person to realize that the pain that they're experiencing is so acute that they need relief for that pain in whatever the product is that you're offering to relieve that pain. I think a lot of us think that both marketing and sales are just kind of crazy ideas and they're wow people and all of those sorts of things, and that's not the case. There are a lot of really, really good salespeople that are very methodical in how they sell. I want you to think about it this way. A lot of artists, some of the most famous artists you know, while they're wild in their art, are actually quite introverted. They're folks that like to be in a room. And so people that are good at sales are really good at sitting down for long periods of time and being methodical around an issue. People that are good at marketing are really good at being higher energy and moving on. Higher energy, moving on. So more short term, where sales is more long term. Now, both of them require long-term nurturing and dripping in order for marketing to lead to a qualified prospect and in order for sales to lead to a closed deal. Another difference between marketing and sales is marketing is for the masses. Sales is for the singular. All right, easy way to remember that. Marketing M for the masses, sales S for the singular. What do I mean by that? Well, when we're going out and marketing, we're spreading seed all over the place. Some of it might fall on really good soil. Some of it might fall on paths that are just hard and firm and nothing's ever going to germinate out of that. But the principle is that we're sowing seed everywhere. But then once we get and have those qualified prospects, we see things starting to grow. Then sales is the gardener who comes through one by one and starts to evaluate to see if this is a good crop to be able to pick. So think of it from an agricultural standpoint. Marketing is spreading massive amounts of seed. Sales is going crop by crop to see if that's ready to go. Now, a lot of times we'll have the same person doing lead development and closing the deals. And in many cases that can actually work. It's not always wrong to do this. But as the business grows, you will likely need somebody focused just on lead development, just on identifying the proper prospects. And then you will need someone or a group of people just focused on closing those leads. But while you're small, you may have to have a person doing both. This is why training is so important. I actually want to draw your attention to a video I just recorded that I think will be incredibly helpful for you. And that video is how to improve your marketing and sales department. I'll put a link in the description below so you can go watch that, and it'll start to flesh that out, what it looks like. Here's the more important attribute that we need to understand, whether it's the same person doing both lead generation and closing deals, or you have separate people being able to do that. The thing that's important is your entire team, whether it's one person or 5 people or 20 people, needs to have a scorecard, needs to have a once weekly agenda-driven leader-led meeting where you evaluate that scorecard, and needs to have repetitive, predictable, and meaningful training about the actions and the activities of marketing and the actions and activities of sales. If you don't have those 3 things, or you're lacking any one of those 3 things, you're going to have an anemic marketing and sales experience, not only for your team, but for the prospects and the customers that you close. For too many of us, marketing and sales is kind of on the back burner. We're like, it's all about the product, it's all about the product. Listen, you do not have a product problem. In fact, I would argue you don't have a marketing problem or a sales problem or a cash flow problem. What you have is a process problem. We've not taken the adequate time to process the marketing system, to process the sales system, and then to equip the people to be able to run both of those systems. And so we need to commit ourselves to building process with repetition, predictability, and meaning. So not only do we equip the business with the necessary documented processes that it needs, but we also equip the people with the repetition they need and the equipment they need of those processes to be able to go deliver it, so that they can market the same way you market, so that they can sell the same way you sell. Why? Because right now, when you do it all yourself, you're living in chaos. And ultimately, we want to liberate you from that chaos to make time for the things that matter most.